Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I am Allison Billings. I am the Executive Director of Impact on Education, which is the foundation for Boulder Valley Schools. We have been around for nearly 40 years, since 1983, and we've been BVSD's support system that whole time, providing supplemental funding and resources to all of the 31,000 students and 4,000 educators across this whole school district. We really are focused on expanding what's possible in education and promoting equity in our schools, and ultimately setting every single child up for success. So this year during the pandemic, we've been busier than ever, supporting local students with everything from food and home internet to supplemental instructional time. For anyone who's learning about us for the first time, you can learn more. You can sign up to get news at impactoneducation.org. But with that business out of the way, I'd love to tell you that today I'm really pleased to welcome you to our video series called What I Know Now. And I'm really proud to introduce you to two members of our Student Advisory Board who will interview today's special guest, Dr. Shaz Zamore with ATLAS Institute at CU Boulder. So Paul and Emery, I will hand it off to you to introduce yourselves and take it from here. Thank you all for watching, and thank you, Paul and Emery and Shaz, for your time.
Hello, I'm Paul Masters.
And I'm Emery Jansen.
And can you quickly introduce what grade and what school you attend as well?
I'm a senior at Fairview High School, or junior at Fairview High School.
I'm also a junior at Fairview High School. Okay, I'm going to start us off with a little bit of background on Shaz, and I really hope all of this information is correct, but it'll be fun if it's not. So Shaz is the outreach coordinator for STEAM at the ATLAS Institute within the University of Colorado. ATLAS is an institute that promotes radical creativity and cultivates a unique environment for the worlds of innovation, sciences, engineering, and out-of-the-box thinking to collide. With their passion for providing greater academic accessibility to underserved students, Dr. Z created the education tool Craniate. Welcome, Dr. Z.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
You nailed it, by the way.
Awesome. Good to hear.
So just to start us off with some more basic questions, to learn a little bit more about you. What's something you learned or were taught in school that you thought you'd never use, but actually use regularly in your life?
Man, it's a great question. And I actually had to think about that for a little while, but I think the answer is math. And I think that might be the disdain of a lot of students, but I use math all the time. Just today I went to Costco, and I like to play this game where I just keep a running tally of how much everything in my cart costs. And then I try to see how accurate I am with my estimation when I get to the counter. And then I was working on making a little cardboard tray, and just to figure out the dimensions to get everything to work out right, just to make something cool in my house. I have to do some trigonometry, so it comes up a lot. And even if it's not actual calculations, mathematical concepts are in my life every single day. Like taking a problem and turning it into a sort of equation and then solving for the missing information is something that happens every single day. So it's a very, very useful tool. Makes me feel very capable to be able to use math like that.
Thank you. I guess our second question, more or so on what students do. What do you think students these days should do more of while they are in school?
In school. Yeah, man, that's a good one. Man, tough to say. I would say explore, take risks. It's kind of the time where you have a lot in reach for you to try. There's different sports, there's different clubs. And there's not really a lot hanging on that. I know there's a lot of pressure to kind of have this wonderful record to show to schools, but truly if you're taking the time and exploring and seeing what's out there and getting to know teachers and what opportunities they have to offer, what extracurriculars there are, you really start to find your passion. And that is more important, I can argue, than filling out, checking all the boxes so you have a good looking application. Knowing what you're passionate about so you can speak about it and translate that passion is way, way, way more valuable. It's valuable to you and not just where you're going. So I say explore. Be friends with somebody that you would never think to be friends with, just to see what that person is like. You really don't get opportunities like that with that much diversity with nothing hanging over it, no responsibilities, nothing to like, you have to stay on this track. Really, the only time you have it is high school. So take advantage of that.
Really need to like get out of your bubble comfort zone.
Yeah.
And with that,
do you have any, sorry. I was just going to ask, do you have any examples of extracurriculars that you participated in that kind of shaped who you are today and what your career is looking like right now?
Yeah, actually. I did two things that were out of the ordinary for me. I was a diehard soccer player. You could never find me playing another sport, soccer all the way. And then one year, our team was not great. And we decided as a team that we would all run winter track after the soccer season ended. So we would become faster and just have better stamina and then have more team bonding. And I loved it to the point where when the soccer season started up again, I had a really serious decision to make. And I would have never in a million years thought that I would love to run track. And it changed how I thought of team sports. It made me, you really are aware of your weight, your contribution to the whole team's performance. And just kind of taking everything with that. With soccer, it's kind of like, oh, well, the whole team failed together at the same time. And with track, you can pinpoint it. So there's a little bit more accountability and a little bit more, you have to bring yourself there. You have to show up every single time. And there's a little bit more fear because of that. And it just made me feel more confident to take risks, because even if I was running 800s, and if I ran it poorly, I knew it. And I knew it right after that. And then I had a whole team to support me. And that, realizing like you can fail on a team and have that to come back and help you back up is like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is something that should apply everywhere else in life. And I see it in so many different places, especially like in my job now at ATLAS, where everybody has this individual contribution and individual accountability to make the whole system great. I'm much more comfortable in that role because I took that step out of the box.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that during that time there were some challenges of trying to decide what to do, and some challenges, I'm wondering, what do you think are some challenges that you face or that students face living in specifically Boulder County today?
Yeah. Boulder is a very interesting place. I've only been here for 2 years. I'm still getting to know it. I think one of the things that I see the most is a sort of difficulty physically leaving Boulder, leaving Colorado. And I don't blame you guys because it's beautiful here. It's wonderful. And Boulder County in particular is quite safe, as well as affluent. And I think that pairing is really tricky because you start to think that what you should be looking for is always safety, but that's not really true, right? We go on hikes, we go and summit these really tall mountains where there's not a lot of oxygen because we're so high up. But we do all of these risks all the time where we put ourselves in unsafe situations because it's good for us. We grow, we connect with other people. And it's hard to see that correlation socially here because of that safety. So kind of getting out and stepping out and seeing the world and taking that risk, I think can be a bit of a challenge. I certainly see it. There's a lot of Boulder County alumni that are at CU. And then they stay, they go to undergrad and they stay because it's so wonderful here. But like now when I get grad students or undergrads, I tell them to go out, go see the world. And I think that's a challenge to kind of step away and go, it doesn't have to be familiar. It doesn't have to be safe all the time. It doesn't have, like, I can go and I could take these risks and I will grow as a person because I did that. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I've seen. Would you agree?
I think that's a really interesting point.
I think...
I was just gonna say, it seems like a really interesting point because I know Boulder is very, at least in the community, known for, like, there are a bunch of vegans and we're all very down to earth, into nature, and we kind of branch out in nature and we branch out in food choices. But I think as a community, Boulder really struggles to branch out socially and emotionally, which kind of stunts a lot of the kids coming out of Boulder County schools just because they want to go right to CU or stay in this bubble. And it really is a challenge. And it's awesome to see that that's also visible from your point of view, and you aren't from here, but it's still super relevant.
I do want to just underline, it's a great bubble.
It's a great bubble, yeah. It's a great bubble. It's because it's just like more of a, like you said, a more affluent community. There's definitely a lack of diversity, I think, that's quite apparent. And I think that definitely limits the interactions that many students have within school and within the community. So it feels maybe not necessarily unsafe to go out, but it's very, very different. And so there's more unfamiliar. Of that stay with the herd mentality.
Yeah. Nice pun. I like that.
Okay, our next question is about COVID-19, which has clearly had a huge impact on the way that students are learning this year. And we are hoping that some of these changes are temporary, but some might be lasting. What innovations to public schools and student learning do you hope this pandemic brings?
Yeah, I would really like to see, so I'm sure, like me, like everybody else, kind of sick of the living in boxes on screens one way or another. But there's a lot of accessibility that comes with that. And there's a lot of flexibility that comes with that. And I do hope that that stays. And I think seeing how we can mobilize together, right? Not just even as a school district or as a county, but like globally, like we all are working together to realize, like, oh, we can put these systems in place. I hope that that stays, that willingness to mobilize, to accommodate people, to accommodate different situations. I really do hope that stays, because all of those things will lead to a more universally welcoming design in schools, design in apps, interaction, programs like this. And so I hope to see that in particular, just that flexibility. Like students can stay home, right? Let's say we have someone who is bedbound. They can attend school because now teachers are definitely used to Zoom. So, and even having this hybrid, my goodness, just hats off to K-12 teachers. I just want to say, having hybrid classes where some students are at home at the same time that there are students in the classroom, that opens up a lot of doors for a lot of people who might not have an easy time leaving their home, physically or mentally. So it really means that school can change and become more accessible to some people, while I'm well aware of, the digital divide and that it closes off accessibility to others. We still have this dynamic that I hope stays.
And I guess we're going off of that there, because of our ability to have people in class and at home, there has been, I guess, more ability for like equity within the reach of students and how they prefer to learn, essentially. And so I guess, what are some examples of equity or celebration of diversity or lack thereof did you encounter during your school years, including college, if you want?
Oh man. Okay, so I am an outlier. I am not representative. So I was in a predominantly Black neighborhood area in New Jersey. My school was predominantly Black. We spoke 40 languages in my high school. We would have these cultural days where you can have free periods or your lunch period, and you can learn salsa, or you can learn how to cook some international dish. And we were always, from when I was really young, eating each other's food, learning each other's dances, learning each other's languages. And so all of our jokes by the time we got to high school were like multilingual. So not typical, but always a celebration of diversity. It also misguided me when I went out into the rest of the world, because I thought of like, oh, everybody, I had white friends who understood that when they hung out with their Black friends, they all got harassed by the cops more, right? So even the kids who weren't feeling the direct impacts of systemic issues knew about them intimately. And then I went out into the world and I'm like, oh, this is not normal. And there I started to see a lot more of the inverse, a lot more of the lack of celebration of diversity. And it's really just kind of, it's a little heartbreaking, not because I don't really see a lot of people just outright going, that's terrible, I don't want those people over here. I haven't really encountered a lot of that. It's a lot more, no, it's fine the way it is. And I'm like, no, you have no idea. When I could tell you a joke in English and the punchline is in Spanish and we all laugh. That's great. To me, that feels like the future. To me, that feels like home and a collective, and to see everybody, all these different faces, all these different backgrounds, all these different languages, and we're all laughing together. Yeah, celebrate that. Come into the space with us, you know? And so it's sad in that way to just not know, to see people that are just like, no, this is normal, this is fine. I'm like, no, there's so much more. It just makes me really hungry for just more of that richness in awareness, you know? Yeah, but in terms of lack of diversity, I mean, I think that's really it. But for the most part, everyone, especially here, since I moved to Boulder, it just feels like everyone's like, I'm so glad you're here. And I'm like, yeah, me too. So I'm really for that. So I still see it here, which is really quite nice. And I hope to see that just grow and become, you know, I want to see more of that. Yeah. Did that answer your question? Like going out.
Yes.
Yeah, very well.
That sounds like an incredible school experience.
It was interesting. It was interesting.
Maybe a little chaotic, but
yeah.
We don't have 40, but I'm half French, so we have the French community at Fairview, and I don't know, there's always that, like, having that ability to sometimes speak in the hall, and you're like, oh man, it's super cool being able to have a great conversation in another language.
Heck yeah.
Nobody knows what you're saying, but it's still cool anyways.
Yeah, it's a deep connection, you know. When you have those moments, do you feel like, yes, this is like my people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you could be totally different. That's like the coolest part about it. I'm really glad you have that in your school.
Yeah, and it's great because it includes the classes that people are taking. So people who do not speak French and are taking French class, or people who don't speak Spanish, it's when those communities come together through those classes that it really, like, you build strong connections within those communities and classes, and then you have some pretty good, I guess, use of that knowledge Whereas,
Yeah.
some schools, if you don't have those communities, then you have people taking a class, and that is about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Seems like we should probably start to wrap up. I don't know if that's the best idea, Allison.
Well, Dr. Z, I want to be respectful of your time. I don't have your question list in front of me, actually. Do you guys have some burning ones? Shaz, could we do one more question? Would that be okay? I know we
Absolutely.
started late. Okay.
I would love to. I have nothing going on.
Okay. All right. So Emery, Paul, do you have another question or two you'd like to get to?
We have 3 left, but we can
I just had one
knock
that
one of them off.
well, specifically, I wanted to know what craniate specifically is and what that does, because I just knew it was an online tool, but I wasn't exactly sure what it was.
Yeah. So Craniate is actually not online intentionally. So it's an informal learning kit that's part comic book and part experiment kit. And the comic book follows 5 students in middle school who meet a scientist from the future who gives them nanobots that give them superpowers. And as the students develop superpowers, you learn about neuroscience, biomechanics, physics, nanotechnology. And then there are different gadgets and experiments that show up in the comic. And then you'll get the kit and you'll either build that gadget that showed up in the comic, or you'll do an experiment. So you'll do something that the kids in Axon Squad, that's the comic book, did. And so with the experiment kit, they're called mod capsules. You get to do this immersive, hands-on experiential learning where you build a device, and with that device, you learn something about how your nervous system works. For example, I wish I had the prototype with me. It's in my office. But the first prototype is a gauntlet that can detect static electricity. And so the whole experience is about how there's all these things that we can't perceive. And one of them is static charge, but you can build a device that will translate that invisible thing into colors, which we can see. And so once you have that, then you build this tool, you do an experiment, you try to measure a couple of materials that are there, and then they're all designed to like last a really long time, so you can share it with your friends and take it out and go explore and like measure random things and see what has charge and see what doesn't have charge, and just get to know how your brain works or how the world works. And so we're working on prototypes now with hopes to get them out to test families this summer. I'm very excited about it. And we'll be working with BVSD and Boulder Housing. So we'll be working with foster families as well. So pretty excited. Yeah. It's my pet project.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I want one. I can wrap us up with one more question.
Sure.
What made you want to go into this career, and like what was your inspiration? Because I know you have some background in neuroscience and neurobiology, which is something that I'm really interested in. So
Awesome.
I'd love to pick your brain about it.
Yeah, pick my brain about brains. Let's see. So I got into neuroscience literally because I thought Dr. Z was a really cool name and neuroscience was the coolest topic I was learning about in college. And it has never since failed to be true. Neuroscience is great. It is unbelievable and just, I want to say mind-blowing so badly. But every new discovery is just like, what? So I love just the complexity of it and how it's the thing, like I'm learning about my brain as my brain is doing the thing that I'm learning about. And that's really fun. And anytime I go to talk about science, everyone's interested because it's the science of them. So it's really accessible, which got me into doing a lot of outreach. And once I started going into classrooms and interacting with kids that looked like me or acted like me, or I had something in common with that they would just never think they would see in a scientist, I was like, okay, I'm doing this all the time. And I had no idea. I mean, just the things that are coming out in this neuroscience field, it really doesn't get out to the rest of the world. And it's amazing. We have technology that fixes spinal injury in rats. So we can put a chip into a rat that decodes the signals coming down the brain that get interrupted because of spinal injury. We just go around it with a bunch of wires, literally a bunch of wires, and then talk to the rest of the organism. And so the rat is able to retrain and learn grasping tasks and do all these really complex grasping tasks, which requires a lot of fine motor. So not an easy thing to relearn. But people don't know about that. It's amazing. In 2007 or 2008, there was a monkey in Brazil that was walking on a treadmill and moving with its brain that was sending signals via satellite, moving an exoskeleton pair of pants, basically, in Japan. It's cool. And I feel like the world should know about that. And I think if more kids knew that that's what they could do with math and engineering and science, a lot more people would be involved in it. That's my whole spiel. That's why I do what I do.
Well, thank you so much.
Wow.
This was very educational and
Awesome.
a great perspective. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was really great to talk with you guys. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. I loved the message around risk taking too. And I hope you guys take that to heart, because I totally agree with you, Dr. Z, that time is ripe. And we do have this tendency to expect kids, I call it going pro. It's like, you're supposed to go pro. Like these kids have to be professional athletes by the time they're leaving elementary school. Like, what's your thing? Or have some, but it is a great time to take risks and explore and do different things and figure out. And that's what I really love about your work and what goes on at the ATLAS Institute too, is it's this conversion of lots of different things that don't even seem like they necessarily go together. But the advances that are possible when you mix things up in that way are amazing. So thanks for all the work that you're doing at ATLAS Institute, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, my
Chat with
pleasure.
us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely check out ATLAS. It's a really great place to be. The students just did their capstone projects, and I think they'll be posting those videos online, so you can see all the things that it's everything from apps to furniture to different web design. It's pretty cool. There's a whole range of stuff.
And we're hoping we can bring some more partnerships together with BBSD and ATLAS Institute too. So more to come. Thank you.